Peace y'all, this is ICC. Today I'm doing a 5-minute review on Boogerman, a pick and flick adventure. It was released in 1994 for the Sega Genesis, and a year later in 1995 for the Super Nintendo. But today we are sticking with the Genesis version. It was developed and published by Interplay, the same company who released Clay Fighter, and Boogerman is actually a selectable character in Clay Fighter 63 and a third. Boogerman is a 2D platformer, and it's single player only, no multiplayer. The game consists of 5 areas: Flatulent Swamps, The Pits, Boogerville, Mucus Mountain, and the final area, Pus Palace. Each area has 4 stages and 1 boss fight to close it out, so overall you are looking at 20 stages and 5 boss fights. The game is a decent size and the levels are big, sometimes too big. The level layouts leave much to be desired. They seem kind of random and thrown together either quickly or by someone who sees platformers a lot different than I do. It has a few of those levels that you need to keep climbing up and going back and forth until you reach the top. A lot like that level on Bart vs. the World. One mistake and you might be back near the beginning of the stage. The boss fights are pretty simple. They usually have a 3-move or a 3-step pattern, and then they repeat it, going back and forth from right to left and then from left to right. Some of the boss fights seem to go on longer than they really need to. They are not difficult boss fights, they are just long boss fights. But once you get the patterns down, you should beat them rather easily. The music in the game is quite good, and since I am playing on the Genesis, I do have to say they did a pretty good job not having too much of that Genesis twang. As far as a comparison, this soundtrack versus Mutant League Football's soundtrack is no contest. This one has a good mix of vibes, some almost having a blues or a jazz feel to it. Others almost sounding like a cartoon song. The music is definitely one of the better parts of the game. The graphics are decent for a 16-bit game, and the cartoon-style graphics was a good choice. Most of the time it looks really good and has lots of different animations. Boogerman even has multiple idle animations, both being pretty nasty, but it is Boogerman after all. Sometimes the graphics don't really look the best, and it seems to be mostly on the boss fights. Their animations can come off a little bit sloppy, and it reminds me a bit of Zelda on the CDI.
Stop! What? Link? You've saved me!
However, one of the major differences being that Boogerman is on a 16-bit console and Zelda was on a CD-based console with CD quality sound and VCD capabilities. The team at Interplay that developed Boogerman did a good job with what they had to work with. The gameplay overall is similar to Earthworm Jim. If you are a fan of playing platformers like that, then you might want to check this one out. The controls are a bit loose, the character seems to kind of slide around a bit, and sometimes you might think you made a jump, but the character will go right through the platform anyways. It doesn't have perfect controls, but the game isn't too difficult, so you should be able to get by without the controllers becoming an issue. There are no sequels to the game, and in October of 2013, there was a Kickstarter campaign that appeared. The team was asking for $375,000 to develop an HD sequel. The campaign managed to raise just over $40,000, falling well short of its goal, so no sequel was produced. Maybe in the future we can look forward to a new campaign and we can see how it goes from there, but for now, nothing has been heard from them since, and the project may be cancelled. Overall, Boogerman is a decent game. It has its flaws, but it's not overly difficult, and the idea of flicking your boogers and farting on your enemies will probably always be popular amongst the kids. So in my opinion, no ICC stamp of approval. However, if this was 10-year-old ICC talking, perhaps it would receive a stamp. I'm ICC. Thanks for watching. Peace.